It's Josh. 1, 2, 3 for the national.
1, 2, 3
Give me
for
a
national.
TriCast.
Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. We are here to preview the Aintree Grand National meeting, and we're going to change it up this week because we're going to do 5 of our best bets for the Aintree Festival in a challenge to make the most profit or to reduce the losses. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to be there all 3 days. Cannot wait. Are you looking forward to watching it?
Yeah, will do. I'm in the office working hard as you're there on the big screen. So best of luck with your few days away. I'm sure people will be seeing you. People will be coming up to you. Perhaps given the year the two of us have had.
They won't be asking me for tips.
No, I think that's probably the elephant in the room that maybe a few people will be thinking of as we're embarking on our tipping challenge. But this, I feel, is the turning point that we had to make. We had to kind of put ourselves accountable, and this is what we're doing.
Make ourselves accountable and see if we can make profit at a very competitive meeting and not going for something in every race, cherry picking the horses that we fancy. If you do enjoy this video and you do enjoy this type of video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to Let's Talk Racing if you haven't already. It's free, takes 2 seconds. Just hit that subscribe button down below, would mean the world. And we do hope that you enjoy this video. And these are in no particular order. So simply 5 selections, no nap, no double points, just 5 selections. If it's a win bet, it's a 1 point win, whatever your point may be. That might be a tenner, might be 50 quid, might be a quid. And if it's an each way bet, it's 0.5 points each way.
Well, mine are in order, actually, Josh. They're just in chronological order.
There we go. Chronological order. I think we're probably both going to do something quite similar. Yeah. Right, your first one, hit me.
Comes in the Red Rum Handicap Chase on the Thursday. It is the 450 for those looking for the race on your race card. Competitive 2-mile handicap chase. It's going to be soft, heavy ground. I think you want somebody or want a horse that's going to go through that. An awful lot of people will know I was a big fan of Answer to Cave going into the Cheltenham Festival for Terence O'Brien. I think it's very interesting that he's going to bring over Whiskey Welt for this race. John Shinnick Book, who obviously rode a very good race on Answer to Cave, has won on this horse the last twice. He's won on soft and heavy ground. He's an improving horse. He's currently 16-1 best price. It's going to be an each way bet for me. But I think he's got a huge chance of outrunning those odds. I think there's a little bit of bias against him because of maybe the trainer. But Terence O'Brien's had a super season. And fingers crossed this horse can run a big race.
I'm going for a slightly different angle to you. You're going for an each way play. I'm going for hopefully what is a winner at a shorter price. I'm going to back Imperi Pass in the Aintree Hurdle. Obviously, he's got Bob Ollinger to come up against. But I think Imperi Pass is fundamentally a better horse. Might be unpopular. I know Bob Ollinger beat Imperi Pass in the Irish Champion Hurdle on his last start, but he's been fresh since then. I think Imperi Pass is a proper 2.5 miler, maybe even a 3 miler. He was so good in the Ballymore last year, really good at Punchestown. He's 2-1. I'm going to take on Bob Ollinger, who's had his day this year, had a couple of days, and I think that he could possibly be vulnerable. I know that he is kept fresh for this. I'm not sure he's going to absolutely love that really testing ground, whether Imperi Pass I think will. So Imperi Pass at 2-1 for me. My first one that goes in.
Do you anticipate he'll be ridden a fair bit differently?
I do. I also anticipate that Paul Townend will obviously be on for the first time this season.
Which will mean a lot.
It will mean a lot. Well, no, did he ride him? Oh no, he must have rode him in the Hatton's Grace.
He did, yes.
But for the first time in 3 runs. So
yes. And he's not having to run against State Man for the first time in a while.
No, he's not. So Imperi Pass for me goes in there.
Yeah, next for me is on to the Friday, the 3-mile, 1-mile main novices chase at 145. I know the way you're thinking. The horse that obviously sluiced up in the Kim Muir has been given a rating of 157.
I know.
I don't really agree with that personally.
I would suspect that he's not far off a Gold Cup company. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think the Kim Muir was fundamentally a lot worse of a race, and often is a worse race than the Ultima. I think we've seen from the declarations coming today that obviously Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning are staying in the 2.5 mile division. I thought Grey Dawning might go up in trip.
Yeah, ground probably dictated that.
But ground has dictated that. And as a result, I think Kim Bailey has nothing to lose running Chianti Classico in here, although he was a really impressive winner of the Ultima against a horse like Meeting of the Waters, who's certainly not without a big chance in the National come Saturday time. He's 7-2, 4-1 in comparison to 2-1. I know the way you're thinking. I like the Ultima form better than I like the Kim Muir form. They're off level weights. I think Chianti Classico, the horse to beat there.
Interesting, and also that is a tried and tested route. I think plenty of horses have done it. The one that springs to mind is Hollywell, won the Ultima, then went and won the Grade 1 here.
Yes, and he did it a few years ago as well. It wasn't coming from the Ultima, but Espoir de Ramée tipped up when he was going to beat Chantry House in this race, having come from a handicap. Kim Bailey can do it when he has the horse.
My second one is still on the Thursday in the Red Rum, taking you on with Dancing on My Own, 10 to 1 each way. I have liked him. I liked him for the Grand Annual. He didn't run because of the ground. Obviously, he won at Aintree last year. The ground is going to be much better, but I think Aintree does suit him better. I think he's run some brilliant races this year, and I just think he's going to be absolutely primed for this one run. I think if he wins another race between now and the end of the season, it will be this. And for me, Dancing on My Own, I've been chatting about him for a little while. And
Are you a shareholder in this horse?
I wish I was. I wish I was. But I'm not. I think he's.
Ground queries?
Possibly that'd be my one thing against him, but I think he'll still run.
Yeah, no, I can see the point. Going back to the last race, or the last time he won was obviously at this meeting, and he was a very impressive winner at that. I'm still on the Friday here for my third selection. I'm going to go to the Top Novices Hurdle. Of course, we're in a place at the moment we don't have those Friday, Saturday decks, but because you're heading off, that's the reason we're at the reason of recording when we are now. But I think Firefox is going to run in the Top Novices Hurdle, and I think Firefox is going to win the Top Novices Hurdle. My reasoning being, I just think he got the worst of it in comparison to the two horses in front of him in the Supreme. He got boxed out of it at an important time turning in, and actually, having looked at the race back, he was an awful lot more eye-catching than I gave him credit for at the time.
Do you not wish he was running over 2.5?
Perhaps so, but I think on this ground I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The 2 miles is fine. I think he handles this ground more than Mystical Power wants this ground.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Mystical Power. If he was to run in the 2 mile novice hurdle on decent ground to punch us down, I'd be all over him. But he's not. If he runs here, it's on heavy ground. He's not a certain runner either. I think Firefox at the moment, at the 7 to 2 available, is a very good bet.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got a massive chance. I am on the Friday now, and I think if I was going to have a nap, I know we're not having a nap, but my strongest selection of the Aintree meeting would be this one, and that is in the 2.5 mile William Hill handicap hurdle, and it is Katira at 12 to 1 each way for Dan Skelton. She finished a 2-length second to Irish Point in the Grade 1 at the meeting last year. Obviously, Irish Point has gone on to frank that form greatly. She's not had it her way this year. Dan Skelton kept saying that she wasn't really right at the start of the season. She ran some good races, but not great races. They freshened her up completely. She was a different horse at Kempton on her last start when Nico de Boisville took the ride. I don't really think he ever put her in the race. She stayed on, I think she finished 4th, but was beaten 3 or 4 lengths. Never put in the race. This is the target. Dan Skelton is chasing the title, and I think that he would be fairly confident. I think that he will be the mount of Harry Skelton as well. So Katira for me in the William Hill handicap hurdle, I think she's very well handicapped for a mark in the low 130s. So 12 to 1, she's probably my nap, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm going to back her each way, 1.5 at 12. Sorry, 0.5 points.
I'd struggle to disagree with that. I wanted Katira in my team, but you had kind of, well, you went off to Skelton's the other week and you came back with this information for me.
To be honest, I had done my research going there, and I kind of gave Dan a nudge, and I went, is Katira going to win the 2.5 mile handicap hurdle? And he didn't say anything, but he just kind of gave me a look of like a
intriguing
bit of a wink.
Well, I remember we watched the Kempton race together, and we were just looking at Katira and Nico de Boisville's ride, and we were intrigued by it, I think is the word.
Yeah. And West Balboa is back in the field as well. She's going to have a massive chance up to 3 miles, so I wouldn't put anyone off if you wanted to back her as 2.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I'm moving on to the Saturday, and I'm moving on to the biggie, Grand National. 4 o'clock. This is where it all comes down to. I'm putting in a best bet in the National.
Yeah.
I'm really keen on Panda Boy in this race. I've convinced myself so much. It's one of those ones I've been mulling it over for weeks, and I can't see him running a bad race. His record in big field handicaps is exemplary. I know people will look and see he probably hasn't won as many times as maybe a horse of his ability could have or maybe should have done. But at the same time, he's been placed in a couple of Paddy Powers. He was placed in the Irish National last year. He'd clearly been trained with this race in mind. I'd have said they were sweating bricks for weeks thinking he's not going to get into this race. He sweeps in at the bottom. JJ Slevin, who's just won the Irish National last week for Tom Gibney, he gets the ride. Martin Brazel, a very, very good target trainer, as we well know, and as he's shown in the last couple of years especially. I've just convinced myself the Panda Boy at 12-1 best price, 10-1 generally, is a very, very good each way bet. You're going to get 5-6 places on the Grand National on the day, maybe even 7 with some bookies. I know not everyone will be privy to that, but I don't see him out of the 5.
I absolutely love that. What we will do is, just for a bit of fun, is we'll have a 1, 2, 3 at the end for our Grand National selections.
Okay. Well, I have given up the ghost there.
We have given up the ghost there. But a Grand National selection going into your team, love that. My 4th one comes in the Sefton Novice Hurdle, still on the Friday. This is at 4:40, and it's Shanna Bob at 8-1 each way. Didn't run in the Albert Bartlett when he was meant to, but that was because Henderson pulled all of his horses out at the time. I think he'd have had a big chance there. I actually think that he's got a very interesting profile for something like the Brand Advisory. I think he's 50-1 in a place for next year. He's obviously Donnelly, Henderson. I didn't particularly like him at the start because he went to Plumpton for his debut. No idea what they were doing that for. But clearly got plenty of ability. Looked very good on his last start, and I do think that he's capable of winning this race. And if he wins a race like this, he's probably going to be 16s for an RSA next year. So I think he is definitely of interest at 50-1 for a Brown Advisory. But he's 8-1 here. I'm going to back him 0.5 points each way at 8. I like him.
Yeah, no, again, another one, unfortunately, I can see a very good case for. I'm a huge fan of a horse he beat at that Cheltenham meeting, Kerry Hill, who went on to win the River Don. I was a little bit perturbed to not see him in the entries for the Sefton, but I hadn't done my research. I was reading Ruth Jefferson's blogs there yesterday. Horse has met with a small hold-up. He's been put away for chasing next season, a horse that, again, I'm giving up at the ghost slightly. He will be in a Horses to Follow video next year.
There we go. Right, your final one.
Last race on the Saturday. Always like one to go out. The big bumper,
yeah.
5:35. We'll hopefully have had Panda Boy winning the Grand National.
He'll be flying high.
We'll hopefully have had Terence O'Brien with a winner on the Thursday.
Absolutely.
Firefox will be the king in the Top Novices Hurdle.
It'll be physically impossible for me to turn the tide with my final selection at this point.
Yeah, it will be. But the one thing that the meeting will need, and the one thing the meeting will want, is an Ollie Murphy winner.
Wow.
And I was just, and I know I maybe shouldn't be doing it. I know I shouldn't let myself do it. But you can't look at me and say what that Castle Ivers did at Wetherby wasn't absolutely splendid on the eye. He's won twice when he's been on grass. He was beaten in an all-weather bumper at Lingfield. I don't know what they were doing, running him in an all-weather bumper. He doesn't look like that type of horse at all. I think he suits a strong gallop. He's a really strong travelling type. He's obviously won on softer ground as well, which is a nice thing going into a race like this. Murph will love a big winner. How much did you enjoy Brewing Up a Storm winning at Ferriers? It near on made my Easter.
I felt like my second name should have been Hester. Honestly, I absolutely love that horse.
But it's just, I would love to see one of these Ollie kind of very good bumper horses turn out to be the real deal. I'm taking a chance, rightly or wrongly. Race isn't priced up yet. Usually matter of thumbs.
I think it is priced up. I think the Yellow Clay in the same silks is favourite. I think Castle Ivers is about 12-1, 10-1.
I'll be taking a lovely little each way snip on that at that type of price.
There we go. You'd imagine that would be the mount of Sean Bowen as well. My final one comes in the Mersey. Now, I don't know, but I don't think that Slade Steel is going to run here because he's been quite weak in the market. Therefore, the horse who is going to run here is not obviously same connections, but a horse who will run here is Brighter Days Ahead. She'll be getting £7 off Coldwell Potter. I think she's too good for that. She's 4-1, will run in the race. I really, really like her. I think that 2.5 miles, you're going to see the best of her. At Cheltenham over 2 miles and 1 furlong, you didn't think they'll be ride her aggressively. They know she's quality. And do you know what? It also reminds me a little bit of this. And it obviously very different sphere, different level. But when Apple's Jade got beat by Ivanovic Gorbatov in the Triumph,
yeah,
and then went to Aintree and won by genuinely half the track.
Yeah, I remember it well.
I can see Brighter Days Ahead doing something similar where she's been beaten at Cheltenham. They ride her completely differently, so confident, 2.5 miles, which is a trip, and she goes and puts on a proper show. So for me, her at 4-1, she's a strong fancy. I'm still convinced that she's an absolute rocket.
Yep. And well, Jade Grugy didn't do any harm
did she? No. I think it's good form. So yeah, getting £7, Brighter Days Ahead for me is the last one.
Well, I can only wish you the best of luck, Josh. I don't know how they'll go. I'm actually relatively confident, though.
No,
Usually kiss a day.
It's an interesting meeting. There were a few horses that are on the periphery for me. I think Affadil was one in the conditional jockeys under Freddie Ginger. I think it was 14-1. Tiupu, I think if he runs, he's obviously going to be very short. I think he's still 11-4, so you're taking a chance. But there are a few interesting ones. But they're the 5. So Imperi Pass, Dancing on My Own, Katira, Shanabob, and Brighter Days Ahead. Your 5 are?
Whiskey Welt,
Yep.
Chianti Classico,
Yep.
Firefox, Panda Boy for the biggie, and Castle Ivers. Josh, 1, 2, 3 for the national.
1, 2, 3
Give me
for
a
national.
TriCast.
I'm going to go 3rd, Shambard at 80-1.
Lord above, yeah.
2nd, Delta Work.
Yeah.
I think those horses who didn't run in the cross country are very interesting.
Yes, well, especially horses that like easy ground as well.
Love easy ground. They all stay, and they haven't had that hard race. I think they're all interesting.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
But I think he would be the pick, and I think I would have backed him in the cross country. Therefore, I think if that form would have been interesting, he comes in here for me. I think he's 25-1 as well. I think it's a good
I think
price.
he's overpriced.
Vanillier would be my number 1. I think 2nd in the race last year to Korak. I think he absolutely loves this trip and is going to be a lot better at the weights with a horse like that.
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
they're my 3. Chambard, bit of a flyer, 80-1. Just thought he was very, very good at Aintree earlier on in the season, and probably has been slightly overlooked given connections and stuff. It always seems overlooked. Won the Kim Muir, won the
He always goes off 25-1 plus. I don't know how.
80 currently. So,
Yeah.
and gets in.
No.
So I think that he's interesting. But yeah, I think Delta Work and Vanillier, not really sure what my number 1 pick would be, but they'd be up there basically.
Yeah, no, well, Delta Work is a horse I like a lot. He'd be in my 3.
Yeah.
He'd be in 3rd for me, because I just think, as you say, I was going to back him at 5-6-4, or in and around that type of price on the day for the cross country, and the race didn't get to run. He's still, I think, just as good as he was last year.
Wouldn't have had the hard race.
Wouldn't have had the hard race. I forgot, because I was doing work for Road to Aintree with work today. I forgot how well he was going when he unseated last year. It was, he seemingly still had plenty left to give. I know it was an awful long way out, but he's definitely in there for me. And because I know it's not maybe the most original, but because I'm a big fan of Panda Boy, obviously people will look at Panda Boy and go, he was well beaten by a horse in the Paddy Power this year. Meeting of the Waters. I would have Meeting of the Waters in there at 2nd. I still think. I'm going to say something a bit rogue, considering it very rarely happens. I don't think he was near on off in the Ultima. I think if he was a real Rick,
Do you think they could be doing almost a similar thing to Noble Yates?
very much.
When Noble Yates wasn't really off.
No, not.
That was Sam Whaley-Cohen's first spin on him, so I can understand if he took that run to get to know him, but it wasn't really off in the Ultima, was he? That year that he won?
No, I'm not saying it was a complete blatant job or anything like that. I just think the way the race was run, like you look at Ultimas of the past, you can barely ever make up huge amounts of ground. He started off near on last. He made a couple of early jumping mistakes, was never in the race, and then he still came there swinging at 3 out. I think that can be well upgraded. I think he's definitely a huge, huge danger to my main selection, which is Panda Boy.
There we go. We do hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week for the results. I'm going to beat you.